Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast. For this episode, it's going to be a part two of our previous conversation that we released last week. So we're back. My name is Isa, like always, and I'm here with my friend.
Carlos, the best youth intern that Tosses ever had. Yeah.
Okay, you say that every episode, but it's still not true.
Yeah,
It's still
because
not
it
true.
keeps being true. Like, I'm just being real.
It's still not true though.
You
You
keep
know,
lying to us.
you keep lying because you know that it's me. Please, please.
Mm,
Okay.
please, let's move on. I don't, you're
Okay.
spreading
You don't
lies
want to
here.
talk about it
Misinformation.
because you know it's true.
Yeah.
Calm down, calm down. Okay. So for this episode, we're going to talk about some trauma, specifically related to family trauma. So one of the first questions or topics that we're going to talk about is the way we were raised reflects who and what we are. Do you think that's true, Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, I think 100% there's a lot more nuance to it, but that's the gist of it.
Right? I
Um,
think so too. Okay. So, based on family history, do you think that it affects the way that you treat others and the way that people treat you?
I think yes, but also in a way, like that's more true when you're younger
Yeah.
because I know I've had to unlearn a lot of stuff that I was taught and how I was when I was younger. And I mean, I think I still struggle with a lot of the things that I was taught when I was younger. But for the most part, when it comes to the way I treat other people, I know better now. But like when it comes to the way I treat myself, that's a different question because like I don't know, I mean I think there's a lot to talk about in regards to the way we are raised, but I mean I think for me the biggest one that I still struggle with is the way I was raised in terms of how I view my body and how I view other people's bodies. um because like for example, I know that my mom kind of always grew up talking bad about her own body and like raising me with a bad image of like yeah, a bad image of her body. And so when I was growing up it was always like um yeah, I don't want to be like my mom because I mean my mom is heavy, so like for me it was always like, oh my gosh, like my mom views herself badly so I should view her badly. And then if I'm ever like a plus size person, like that's bad. Like that's what I would think when I was younger. And like I feel like if I hadn't been raised in that environment, like I wouldn't, have these days where I'm just like hating my body and how I view myself in a negative way. I don't know, like that's something I still struggle with, but in terms of like how I view other people, that's something that I've definitely unlearned. Now it's like I mean, for me, like rationally thinking, it's more like I feel it's ridiculous that like we've learned to view people in a negative way for the way that their bodies simply are. Like it's not a bad thing to not adjust to like society's norms of what a healthy weight is, especially because heavier weight doesn't mean unhealthy weight. Like that's just something that we've always been taught, but it's never actually like true. Like there are people who are hella skinny and hella unhealthy. Are some people that eat abnormal amounts of food and still can't gain weight. So like it's just like it just depends. And like honestly for me, on my good days, it's just like, like this is my body. Like this is what has been with me always. Like sometimes I don't have anybody but myself and my body, and my body's the one thing that's gotten me through life. So if my body is the way that it is right now, it's for a reason, and I shouldn't be hating it at all. Like it's mine. Like I don't know how to explain it more eloquently, but like that's how I feel about my body. But certain days it's just like, oh shit, like, you know, like I still have those like internalized, like I guess internalized fat phobia, if that would be it. But yeah, like I think that's just one of many examples of how like the way I was raised kind of affects how I think and I have treated people in the past, because like that's not me anymore, but like I do remember thinking um differently in the past
Yeah.
about other people and myself.
Yeah, same when it comes to body image. That's a very, I don't want to say sensitive topic, at least for me, but I've always been a bigger girl, like always. And like my entire life I've always been a bigger girl. And my mom actually, she was the one that like low key like sparked my insecurities, because she was the one that was
Mhm.
always like, you need to like stop eating more. You need to stop eating like as much as you do. You need to buy smaller clothes. And like, and she would always like low key like fat shame me without noticing it, like unconscious like fat shaming me. And I don't think she ever realized that. And she still does it to this day. And I don't think she realizes that she's doing it. And it's just like they don't see how the way they put together their words affects the people that they're talking to. So like at like there would be times where like we would go shopping. Like that's why I as a bigger girl, I hate shopping. You have no idea how much I despise shopping. Like when me and my friends, I'm like, we're texting in the group chat and they're like, hey, do you guys want to go to the mall? I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, we can go. I'll go to support y'all and be with y'all, but you won't catch me trying on clothes. You won't catch me looking at stuff. I'll help you choose outfits. I'll hype you up. But when it comes to me trying on clothes, I cannot do it. I cannot do it because it's just like a reaction out of me. Like I hate shopping so much, so much. And yeah, and it's crazy because
Yeah.
I had to unlearn all of those things that my mom had told me, like, hey, like you need to stop, hey, you need to do this, hey, let's go see a dietitian, hey, let's go diet this, diet that, let's try keto. I've been on every single diet that you can think of. And has it worked? No. But that's just because that's my body. I still have yet to not find out what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me or why I'm like this. And personally, I think I'm chilling. Like like you said, like my body is the way it is right now because that's what it's supposed to be like. And I believe that everything is the way it is for a reason. So yeah, so when it comes to stuff like that and unlearning and growing as a person, I've definitely done a lot of unlearning because before me would just think like you're big, you're an issue, you're a problem, you just get in the way. And now me, I'm like, girl, I'm a big girl because I'm a big girl. Who cares? I'm a big girl because I'm a big girl. Who cares? You matter in this world. You're important. You take up space, so let it be that way. And that's how I see things now. So it's definitely a work in progress when it comes to having to unlearn the way that you grew up and the way that you used to talk to people and to learn new ways of doing things. So, yeah. And another thing when it comes to that is like it's like I don't know if it's like off topic low key, but like it bothers me when like my thinner friends, like when we go shopping, they do this all the time. We go shopping and I have thinner friends. Like my friends are not big girls like me. And we'll go on and we'll try stuff on, and then they're like, "Ugh, I look so fat in this." And I'm like, I'm sitting there like, girl, I'm fat. You're not fat. Please. Like we can have this discussion and I can tell you and prove to you how you're not fat. And it's
But
crazy.
also I feel,
Go, go, go.
oh, I was just gonna say that like the connotation between that, like they're using it as a negative word. Like they're using
Yeah.
like, oh, I look so fat, and it's like, oh, I don't like how I look. And it's like I kind of just like tells how they actually view like fat people.
Fat
Like
people. Yes. God. Yeah, and I've had this conversation. I haven't brought it up directly because how do you bring that up without being like without like being like you're not fat? Like, trust me, you're not. And I don't know. It's like I haven't brought it up, but I had a conversation with one of my friends, and she's usually not the one to like make comments like that because she realizes and she can read a room when like she's in one. And I had a conversation with her, and she's told me, she's like, yeah, like they've never noticed it because I don't bring it up either because I'm not gonna be one that's like, oh, I hate shopping because blah blah blah. I like keep it to myself. And so we had this conversation, and I was like, why do you think I don't like shopping? Like, you guys go and then you guys call yourselves fat, like, and I'm with you guys. And it's low key like traumatizing for me because like, what the heck? Like, we're supposed to like come over here, have fun, and then you guys are like calling yourselves fat, and I'm just there like, okay, can we go to the next store, please? And then they understand, they're like, oh, sorry, like we'll try not to do it anymore, but yet they still do it. And it's crazy because it's like, okay, like thank you for taking into consideration to not do it as much versus just low key like putting it on a stop and not doing it anymore. But I'll take what I can get, you know?
I mean, I get that, but
Yeah,
that sucks.
yeah, it kind of does. But anyway,
No, yeah, just because like the thing, I mean, yeah, that's so real. Like, I feel like I resonate with your experiences also because like, ooh, like the sizes in the US are not nothing compared to the sizes in Mexico.
mhm.
Like, I've bought clothes most of my life until now, where I do like get to go like thrift shopping, and like sometimes my mom um will let me get some clothes from Walmart, but that's like very rare, like mostly thrift shopping. And like, ooh, especially before my transition, I hated buying clothes. I hated it. I mean, not only because like I just also couldn't find my style because my style wasn't feminine. So like it was just like I didn't know what I wanted either, but also just because like even when I did find something that I thought would like be cute, because at that point I was still trying to adhere to like gender norms or whatever, that I was assigned. Um, and so basically like yeah, like even just trying clothes, I like the sizes over there are so small. Like it'll be large and it'll be a little medium or like, like
That's my
it's just so
problem,
different
bro.
over there. I hate it over there in terms of that. And I mean, yeah, like I completely resonate with that. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, that's an issue.
even now it sucks, but it sucks a little less because at least like even when I'm trying on clothes, like and it does fit, it like gives me a lot of gender euphoria. So that's why it's kind of like better now for me.
Yeah, shopping is scary for me. I don't know. And when I do find something, it's like I get super happy with like my purchase. And it's crazy because like when I shopped for my outfit to go see Peso Pluma, like I have never in my life owned a pair of cargos. And I found cargos that were my size, and I was like, there's no way. And now I wear those cargos like all the time. And I obsess over these pants, and it's crazy because it's like I found something and I like it and it actually fits comfortably. 10 tens. Shout out to Forever 21 because that's where I found them. But yeah.
I was also gonna say that that the other thing you mentioned about like your mom, like that's so me too. Like that happened to me too a lot, especially like it happens less now because like also I feel like transitioning, like it doesn't completely give you like all the kind of like rights and like privileges that men have, but it kind of like once people start switching their perspective of
Yeah.
how they view me, like they kind of do start treating me differently, although not 100%, but they do. And so now it's kind of like my body is less critiqued, I guess, but not to the 100%, as how like I've seen my brother being treated and stuff like that. But yeah, like in terms of like how my mom treated me before in terms of my weight, like yeah, she also had me doing diets and all that stuff. Like I remember when I was like 8 or 9, like my mom was like, "Oh, you need to start dieting."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes it worse.
It
It
does.
like
It
yeah,
does. and they don't see it like that. It's like, who in their right minds are gonna put a 9-year-old child on an eating diet? Like what the heck? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like I like on my dad's side, my dad, he's not on the bigger side, but he's like muscular buffer side, if that makes any sense. Like
Hmm.
he's tall. Like that's where I get like my tallness and also like my buffness. Like we're both built like carrots. Like I'm built like I have like the shoulders of like a linebacker, bro. I'm a bigger girl, like all around. And he's never critiqued me for like how I look ever, ever. And I will always appreciate my dad for doing that because he has never ever made a comment on what I look like and how I look. And on the contrary, it's always been my mom, which kind of sucks because like I mean, you're supposed to like depend on your mom and like have your mom as like your comfort. And instead of my comfort, she was like the person who was pinpointing all of my insecurities. And it low key like it's like a buried like trauma that a lot of people can resonate with,
Yeah.
especially for me because it was hard. Like going on all this stuff, all these diets, all these meds, and then like seeing no progress, quote unquote progress. And then it just makes you feel like shit because you're like, I'm trying, but it's not working. But then your parents are getting mad at you, and it's like, mm. So like I'm low key like in my in like my healing girl era, and like um I'm like trying to unlearn all that stuff now. And my dad has been a big help because he's always just been like super supportive and super like, it's cool, like whatever, like you're perfect the way you are. So now that I've been spending more time with my dad, it's like I'm low key healing, not gonna lie. So yeah, we love that. So
Yeah, same. I mean, I I'm still am, but like I started kind of my healing era with at least my body because I there's a lot of other trauma. But like in terms of my body, yeah, I started a while ago because like my mom to this day, she will still make comments about my body and like comments about my eating habits and stuff like that. And that's why I feel like it's the good thing about like moving away from home. Because like also like I understand why she does the things that she does. Like she still hasn't healed from her trauma,
yeah,
from how my grandma would talk about her body. And so like kind of like there's two sides to it, you know, and it's not to say that, you know, like oh, like suddenly now everything is excused. Like she has an excuse for how she talked about my body or how like she made me go on diets and all that stuff. But that's to say like to me, you know, I understand her perspective and like what she went through, and at the same time like I can still say that that was not okay for me to go through. And yeah, like I mean I think that goes from a lot of other stuff. um but I feel like it's especially true um when it comes to this because like also like I just remember like having to go to the gym um like I mean recently, like even when I was leaving, like I was still going to the gym and all that stuff. And it was kind of hard sometimes because like you know, I would go to the gym not with the purpose of like explicitly just losing weight and because me losing weight would show that I'm healthier now, but just because like I was moving, you know, and I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed going to the gym. So but it was always like there was a difference in like the purposes of like why I went to the gym and why my mom took me to the gym. You know, like my mom, it was always like you need to go to the gym because you need to lose weight. And for me, it was like I need to go to the gym because I want to feel good, like in general. Like it helped me a lot with my mental health. It helped me focus. It just like it helped me move, which is good. Like moving is not inherently bad. It's just the way you perceive moving or the way you yeah, the relationship you have with the gym especially because like a lot of people have good physiques good in like you know like they have like physiques that people would determined, that are like, like healthy or whatever. And they still have a lot of like, like, yeah, body dysmorphia. They have body dysmorphia, and they have like genuine eating disorders from going to the gym. Like some people will like push themselves to the limit for that. And so, yeah, I just feel like being away from home kind of helps a lot with that. Or being away from the person that, like, giving yourself space from the person that kind of harmed you is like important for the healing process. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's one thing that I low-key regret from not going to school out of the city because I mean, people like my friends, they get a
Yeah.
break and then like they get to go live their lives during the school year and then come home. But like I have to stay here, go to school and come home to like a toxic household and it's like it's crazy. And I'm happy that you get to like experience that and get to like have like that break of like, yeah, okay, family, I kind of miss you, but like I'm good over here. Like I'm good. And I mean, I kind of get to do that because I live in two separate houses and recently I've been staying more at my dad's than at my mom's because yeah, I and
Hmm.
it's been quite the time. Like I don't feel stressed out here and I feel myself and I feel like I can do whatever I want to a certain extent, of course. Like I just feel like I can breathe when I'm here versus when I'm at the other household, it's like you can only breathe when like the other person's not around. And it's crazy. But yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Heavy on the getting away from that toxic person. So
And I mean, it's definitely a privilege. So I will say that, yeah, moving away from like the person that, harms you.
yeah. Okay. So our next point is does practicing traditions that are like passed down from the family, whatever, do they also reflect the type of person that you are? Or are they expected of you? Like, how does that make you feel when traditions are expected of you?
That is a complex question. I,
Very.
I want to know how you interpret that because I'm still thinking.
Yeah. Personally, I think traditions are beautiful. Um, they should be followed if you want to follow them. You know what I mean? Like, I understand like tradition and doing certain things, especially like during holidays, whatever, birthdays, celebrations. I feel like it's beautiful. But at the same time, it's like if you're not comfortable with following that tradition, then it shouldn't be expected of you to follow that because you are your own person. And even if it reflects or like makes a different image of who you are to your family, I feel like that's just how it is. Because there's some things that like a lot of people just don't want to do or don't like want to partake in. And then the family like shames them because they're like, oh, well, you don't want to follow tradition. You don't want to like respect the family, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like it's like up to everyone's person or everyone's like interpretation of that tradition to like whether or not they want to like keep doing it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, like that's kind of like the mentality that my family had. Like, my family, most of them are not religious. Most of them, yeah, I mean, my grandpa didn't follow any certain religion. My mom doesn't, my siblings don't. Um, and it's still very hard to like consciously break away from traditions, even though you're not like actively like trying to enforce them, Like, um, yeah, my family was always one that preached like being like open-minded and like just letting people be people. And yet, like, it was still very hard for me to, I don't know, like, the biggest example I can think of right now is like gender norms. Like, they would be like, oh no, we treat everybody the same in this family or whatever, whatever. Like it doesn't matter if you're a woman or you're a man. Oh, please. Like literally, it was always a thing. Either way, like I can think of so many examples, but like the first one that comes to mind is like my brother only had to take out the trash, like only that was his only job, and
Yeah.
us it was do the dishes. Why are the dishes not done? Why are you not helping out in the like house? And like it was always like oh my gosh, I my sensory issues when it came to doing the dishes, like I
Ooh,
always hated it. Like it's not just the act of doing the dishes, but also Matamoros is the hottest place in the world, and we never had any AC.
yeah.
The kitchen was the hardest. Like it was hell. Like oh my god. Like I hated it so much. So if I could avoid doing the dishes, I avoided that shit. Like I did not care, and I did not care how many times I was told you're lazy. You like you don't do anything around this house. Like no aportas nada. Y que quién sabe qué. I was like it still hurt. Like I internalized that shit so much. Like just having people tell me like yeah, like you're lazy. And I would be like, yeah, but I still don't want to do that. So sucks to suck. Um, and like I still did it from time to time, but it was just like not as often as it was expected of me because of that. Like it was just I hated it. And like I hated even more that my brother was only required to come out of his AC like room, like air conditioned room, to like get, I don't know, like three trash bags and just throw them in the trash can and then go back to like his video games or whatever. And it was like,
You're like, hello.
what's going on?
Like,
What? Hello? Yeah.
yeah.
It always and I would also be like yeah, it was even more that than just like the sensory issues and the heat. It was just like it was always that. And so every time I had to do dishes, I was that's the one thing that was always in my brain when I was doing the dishes. But yeah, and it's not only that, like it was always just like there were so many things. Like it was always my brother over here and then me and my sister, you know? So even though you can say like, oh, like tradition is not something that we have to follow, like there's always societal pressure
For
to
sure.
follow those traditions and expectations. Like you can't just,
Yeah.
it's pretty much impossible because like also like that's why it took me so long to come out. Like because it was always like there was this expectation to perform the gender that I was assigned, and like there was no other way. Like there just was not another way. Like it wasn't an option for me to transition for most of my life. Like it just wasn't until I finally like unlearned all the things and expectations that my family had for me, and that I didn't have to perform the gender that they were telling me that I had to perform. So yeah, I just feel like that is a very slippery slope. Like you can't just be like, oh yeah, you can not follow tradition if you don't want to. Like society's gonna pressure you anyways. So that's
Heavy.
just my take on it.
Yeah. Heavy on the pressure. Because there's always going to be that divide between what's expected of you and what you actually do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah. That's insane though.
And even then, like there are a lot of traditions out there that we need to learn the history about because like knowing the history like kind of changes the meaning of the traditions that we follow. Like, I don't know, like for example, quinceañeras, were kind of were done to finally present a woman to society. And this is a 15-year-old girl who
15.
was like, yeah, like you're ready to mate and stuff like that. Like that is crazy, you know? Like that's insane. And like honestly, like I know the meaning of quinceañeras has changed, but and like I don't really like have a problem with quinceañeras at this point. But it's also like my problem that I had with it is like from the time I was 14 and a half to like 16 or 7, yeah, 16, because then like once I transitioned they stopped giving shit. But yeah, like once I was 14 and a half, they were like, oh, what are we gonna do for your quinceañera, blah 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 blah. And like it was all like even I had turned 15 already, and they were still like, because my quinceañera, like the quinceañera time would have fallen during COVID. So they were like, oh, let's just do it later. Let's just do it later. So, like all of these traditions that we have, and a lot of them, we need to learn the history. We need to learn that its impact. We need to learn, yeah, we just like there's so many things that we need to learn and unlearn. And I just feel like I'm not one for tradition. I'm just not.
Yeah. I like certain traditions because I mean, some traditions come with the culture. So, and who we are as Hispanics and as Mexicans. So I feel like some traditions are beautiful, some traditions are nice, but like sometimes you gotta like put your foot down and be like, no, I'm not doing this. But if y'all like it, y'all can do it. But me personally, no thanks.
Even that's hard.
Yeah,
Because like
it's hard.
especially like as like when you're introduced to traditions, you're a young person. Like, and sometimes adults don't respect your voice. Like you can't say no to stuff. So like that's why I personally, like I still appreciate my culture and everything. And there's certain parts of my culture that I'm like, that's yeah, like I like that. But a lot of these things, it's like we don't have a choice to whether we want to follow them or not. So that's why for me, like I am not a big fan of tradition.
Okay, so this kind of leads to the next point, which is changing the way you want to live, like your beliefs and your morals. How does that like affect you and your family? Definitely causes that controversy between the family, especially when you voice your opinions and how you feel. Majority of the time, the family will be like, no, you're crazy. We're not going to listen to you. And it sucks because it's literally a form of adultism for them to be like, no, we're not going to listen to you. You're just a child. You're just a young person. And it's like, no, yeah, I'm a young person. I'm a youth, but like I have a voice, and I would kind of want to use it, because whatever we're doing, I don't like it. And y'all should know how I feel about it? It's very complicated when it comes to family and the way we think, because either one, they can learn from us and unlearn and relearn again, or they could just be like, you're stupid, you're crazy, no, and be super stubborn about it and just be like, I'm not gonna listen to you, you're ridiculous. And then they just blow you off. So it's definitely like, I don't want to say like hit or miss, but it's definitely like a hit or miss, especially with certain topics. It's like, okay. And which also
Yeah.
brings up like, I don't even want to like bring it up because then what if this happens? But at the same time, it's like, it should be brought up because it should be talked about. But then it also takes
Yeah,
a lot of courage to be able to bring it up and talk about it without getting into like super heated discussions and just like having a conversation instead, you know?
yeah. For me, it's like, yeah, like I just as you grow up, your perspective changes from your family. Like for me, I mean, I view it as it's changed for the better because I'm always trying to grow as a person and be a better person. And so in that trajectory, like you figure out that the way that your family has raised you and like the perspectives and notions that you're raised with are sometimes not the best of notions. And then once you're trying to become a better person or be a better person every single day, like intentionally, then it's like, yeah, like I'm doing that. But like, what about the people that I care about? Like, I want them to share my values. Like I want them to be good people as well. And like it's still hard. Like it's super hard to just be able to like have them question their notions by like talking to them about certain stuff. Like I remember having a discussion about like racism and colorism in Mexican society and like with a certain issue that was going on at the time. And like it was it was hard, especially because like it's also hard to argue or well, it's yeah, discuss something that like and like keep yourself like unaffected. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to just like have be emotionless and teach the way like a professor teaches a lecture, you know, like because it personally affects you. So for me, it's like I still haven't gotten to the point where I can just like talk about it and question like the notions and the beliefs that they've had for a long time without, you know, it turning into an argument where it like becomes personal. So that's I feel like what is the hardest for me, but it's also like it's hard and at the same time like I want them to become better people. So I don't like I still haven't gotten to the point where it's like where I haven't figured it out yet. You know, like I still don't know what I'm doing or whatever.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I can definitely say that I can have conversations like that, especially with my dad, because he's a growing man. Everyone is. And he's definitely opened his mind to understanding and hearing us out, me and my sister, especially with the way that the world is changing now. And a lot of people are using their voice to voice about stuff. And we actually talked about this the other day because I was telling him about my Chicano studies class and how we're going to talk about a lot of issues that the world has. And he was like, actually, like when you learn about it, tell me about it because I want to learn about it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like per like as you should, King. Like, yes, I will. I will bring you my notes. I will take detailed notes just for you. And yeah, I feel like I can, especially with my grandma now, I feel like now she's kind of like, okay, I can have these discussions. Might not agree with you, totally cool, but she'll hear me out, especially. But yeah, I definitely cannot have those discussions with my mom because she definitely doesn't have an open mind like that. Like she'll have her mind open for like the moment that you're talking, and then like she'll be like, nah, I'm still gonna believe what I want. And it's like, okay, well, at least thank you for kind of being there for while I was talking, but like at the same time, it's like, okay. So our next main topic is, well, kind of a continued topic, but family trauma. And one of those topics is generational trauma, which we kind of covered in the earlier while we were talking. So generational trauma definitely goes unnoticed and for the most part is ignored and it's never talked about. And I feel like it's something that we should acknowledge because a lot of the times, not even just our parents, but like people like act and they respond to things and they react to things because that's the way they grew up and that's the way they learned and they never got the chance to unlearn and relearn what they wanted to. And I feel like, especially for younger generations, we're like we were talking about, we're developing ways to unlearn what we or what our parents went through, like trying to, in a way, help them heal while also trying to heal ourselves. So I feel like it's kind of like a two for one. Like we're unlearning the ways and we're trying to teach our parents, or older people in general, and they can use those ways to try and heal their childhood self. So that also leads to like parenting and how their trauma rubs off on their kids, which is kind of where we stand because as we're reaching like we're going to college, like we're growing up, we're becoming adults now. We're going to be getting jobs. We're going to be literally growing up. And I feel like throughout our childhood and like growing up in general, it's just like everyone's different because everyone's parents grew up differently. And majority of like Hispanics can relate to certain things because of the way we were raised. And I feel like it definitely depends on like where you are, where you come from, where your parents come from are like, I guess, factors into how people are raised and how people learn things. So it's definitely now, at least now, nowadays, I feel like a lot of people are like us, learning to unlearn and relearn, and also being in our healing girl eras. It's great. So
Ah, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I was like, but yeah. When it comes to the trauma rubbing off on their kids, I feel like as a firstborn, it's definitely, I guess you could say, a challenge because as a firstborn, you are a role model for your siblings. And that's just like a little cliche that like we grew up to believe. And sometimes it's hard when you don't want to follow that. And because it's like, oh yeah, I'm like the firstborn, whatever. But like as you're growing up and you're trying to teach your younger siblings different from how you learn from your parents because you know what it's like. So you want to teach your younger siblings different. At least that's how I see it. Because like especially when we went through like the whole like divorce thing with like my family, like I saw things in a way where like I didn't want my sister to learn and process those things the way I had to process them. So I would make things, I guess, in a way like easier for her to understand and like process because being like when my parents got divorced, we were like, I was like, what? Like 12, 13? Like I was barely like growing, I guess you could say. I mean, we still are, but I was barely like, I don't know, like I was barely in the world. And like if I was barely in the world, like Menno's my sister. And it was just a lot to unpack. And I, as like the older sibling, I've always wanted to be like there for her. And she knows that I'm always there for her. And I I just wanted her to know like that she has another outlet other than just our parents. And now me and her are like twin flames. We're literally like best friends. And I love it because she's literally like my best friend. And I feel like it's hard because I never want to disappoint her or I never want to, I guess in a way, like not be there for her. So I feel like I'm always thinking about what I do, especially when it comes to like school and stuff. Like I like usually the firstborns are the ones to like move away, the first ones to do anything. And for me, it's like I stayed home. I I stayed home because I wanted to be here for her because of our situation. Like I didn't want to move away and then her not have her support system here. And I feel like that's just the way like my brain thinks. I don't know because I feel like I want at some point I have to break away from her. And I know that I have to. But at the same time, I keep going back to that and I'm like I want to be there. I want to be there. I want to be there. And I don't ever want to leave her, although I know at some point she's going to graduate high school and she's going to leave. Like she wants to leave. She doesn't want to stay here. And I encourage her to leave and I encourage her to not stay because from what I've learned, I want her to grow and be better than what I went through and what I decided to do. And so I know at some point, like she's gonna leave and I'm gonna be sad because my bestie's gonna dip. But at the same time, I'm like proud that she's doing things different than the way I did. And like, yeah, I'm just as an older sibling, it's like a super big responsibility, as in like trying to be like a third parent for my sister. I don't know. That's just how I see it. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's completely valid. Like everything you've gone through, like should never be invalidated. And like it's very real, but at the same time, and not but and at the same time, like we shouldn't generalize because that's not everybody's experience, I would say, especially that's not, I mean, I can't speak for older siblings in general, but I just feel like from my perspective. Like, I'm not saying that that wasn't, I'm not even gonna mention my brother because like he was not, he was supposed to be our role model, but he wasn't. I can't say that that wasn't a pressure he held himself up to, but like it just wasn't like, it wasn't expected of him either to be the role model, especially because, like I said, gender norms. Like there wasn't any other boy in the family, like as far as they knew. So he didn't have to be a role model for anybody else because, like, why are the two younger girls supposed to look up, like, are supposed to act like the boy, you know? So for my sister, that was her role, like for me to be the role model. And at the same time, like, yeah, we were close for the longest time. Um, but at the same time, like once I started learning a lot of stuff and started growing as a person, and she kind of stayed. I mean, I know she's growing too, and she's learning a lot, but at the same time, there was a lot of stuff that like over the years I learned that that wasn't the way that I was supposed to be treated. And like I can't blame her either because like she was also just growing up. Like she was also a young person, just like learning the movements through life. But at the same time, like it still doesn't excuse that like the comments and like the assumptions and like notions that were placed on me. And at the same time, I can still acknowledge that those were things placed on her that she passed on to me because she thought she was doing the right thing by passing on like the knowledge from like older sibling to younger sibling. But like I remember like, and this wasn't even that long ago, like when I was 15 and I was talking about my body image and like the way that I was treated when I was younger. And she was still like, yeah, you can eat a lot. Like, damn, like we couldn't have you stop eating. And I was like, damn, like I was literally a child, you know? Like I was like, what do you want me to do? And like she's always held that same notion. Like she will always bring up stuff from when I was younger and still say, like, yeah, that was your damn fault. Like that was you. And it's like I was a child. Like people were supposed like if I was doing something wrong, I wasn't doing it because I was evil or some shit. Like I wasn't doing it because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna like ruin somebody's day. Let me just go ahead and do it." Like that wasn't the thing that passed through my head as a kid. Like if I did something wrong, it's because I didn't know any better and nobody taught me differently. So, like, it's just always a problem that I've had, and not just with her specifically, but like just in general with my family. And there's a lot more nuance to it, but yeah, like I said, it's like with every other person in my family that's passed on like trauma, I guess. Like I can't be like, oh, they're the singular person responsible for like the trauma that was passed on to me because they're not like they're that trauma was passed on to them, and like I completely understand that, but at the same time like it doesn't excuse the trauma that was passed on to me, you know, like the harm that was done onto me for those passing on those emotions and those ideas.
Yeah.
So like I will say that that's kind of a double-edged sword, I would say. It's just not something that we can generalize because that's not everybody's experience. Like as a younger sibling, it's still rough.
Yeah. I can imagine what it's like because as that's one thing that I've made sure of is to definitely process and research certain things, especially when it comes to the comfort of trying to be there and reassure my younger sibling because it's like, oh, when you were little, this, and that. Oh yeah, but you were little, so now you're different. So that doesn't matter because you are a new person. You are different from where you used to be. And I'm always like, I want to say I always make sure that whatever I say or whatever I do for her doesn't put her down, but helps her grow and like boost her up in a way. Like I'm never I always think about things before I say them, especially to her because, like me, she's an overthinker and she likes to overthink about things. And it's like, no, girl, you're good, you're chill, no need to worry because you're fine. You are who you are, and that's who you're meant to be. And I feel like yeah, I've always, I always want to make sure that I'm always reassuring of her for her because I never had anyone to reassure me and how I thought and what I was thinking was right. And the only two people that I had to reassure me were my parents. And like normal, I would have two different responses. So I never knew what was right and what was wrong. So I always wanted to be that, I don't want to say role model, but at the same time, I want to also be that source for her to go to that's not just two different perspectives from my parents, but also like, oh, what do you think too? And having like a third option for things. So, yeah. Okay. So now our next topic is, how does our family trauma kind of affect the way youth grow up? I know it's been like a constant topic that we've been discussing, but we have a list of certain um, topics that we wanted to cover. So the first one is support systems for youth. So, like growing up, what were your support systems like?
Um, that's a loaded question. Support systems. In what way? How do you define support systems?
Support systems can be, I don't know. I mean, like for me, my main support system would be my sister and my friends, just because they know me more into depth than my parents and my family will ever know. Because there's always that side of you that like you never want to really open up about to your family. And I feel like for me, support systems are like family, siblings, friends. But for me, main are friends and my sister. Like those were my support systems growing up. Especially now that me and my sister are like out of our I'm gonna tell mom, I'm gonna tell dad phase. Like we're like each other's besties now. So definitely my sister right now would be one of my top is my top support system.
As much as I've said about like certain people in my family, um, I mean when I was younger, my sister was still my support system. Like I pretty much told her everything. And I mean that's not certainly completely true now, but I mean yeah, my friends are mainly my support system right now. Like if I have a problem, I'll like I go to them first and foremost. But also yeah, sometimes I don't know, I guess it's the distance, but it just feels like sometimes I don't know like who my support systems are. But like I know they are. It's just sometimes there's a little like voice in my head saying like you have no one. Um
Real.
but like I don't know, specifically because like there's some things that I don't know, like there's just my friends are pretty different, like they all have different perspectives and stuff like that. So I don't know, sometimes there's just things that I feel like certain topics that one friend might get and then another person might not, and it's just like even my mom is also kind of a support system for me. Like there are certain things that like I don't tell her because I know that she wouldn't get. But like for the most part, um, at least when I was back home, like I did tell her a big portion of my life.
Yeah. And for those of y'all that are listening, support systems don't have to be family based. Support systems can be a teacher that you really confide in, a coworker that you really confide in. Now that we're in college, like our um like I don't know, like college friends that you meet and then you just like, hey, like I want to talk about this. Like, can you like be there for me? Like they can be whoever you feel most comfortable trusting your life. Well, not your life, but like your what's going on in your life with like right now. Like it doesn't have to be family or people that are really close to you. It can be anyone in the world. Even your dog, even a stuffed animal. Like those can be your support systems. They might not have a voice to give you back, but they're always going to be there for you. So, yeah. And know that we're also here for you. So If y'all need anything, you know where to find us, and you know how to reach us. So yeah. So our next point would be love interests. Like, especially now that we're growing up, I mean, it's not expected for us to have significant others, but sometimes it's like you have an interest in someone, especially like college. There's a lot of new people and a lot of hormones and feelings because we're all growing and we're going to keep growing. And I feel like personally, for me, because of my parents' relationship, I feel like it's definitely going to be hard for me to find someone or for me to like, I don't know, even like engage of the idea of having a significant other because I feel like my parents' history will really I know I shouldn't let it affect the way I perceive relationships, but at the same time, it's like that's all I can think about when it comes to me finding a significant other. Like, are we as like a whole gonna end up like my parents did? And I always have this discussion with my friends, and my friends are like, no, like that's not gonna happen. And I'm like, you can tell me that, but like I still won't grasp that. Like I'm still gonna have that in the back of my mind, like what if this doesn't work out? Like, what if like I'm ruined? Like, what if this? What if that? And I feel like it's definitely hard for me to trust myself to trust this person, you know? And I feel like in order for me, at least, to be able to trust another person or to even like, I guess, want to create something with another person, I have to be able to open myself up because a lot of the times when it comes to situations, I tend to close myself off because I'm like, nah, I'm good. But it's like this person has genuine feelings or genuine connection with you, but like you're not letting it happen. And I'm like speaking to myself, I'm like, yeah, but I want to protect me. I want to protect what I am and like how I feel. But at the same time, it's like you need to open up and see what'll happen. At the same time, it's kind of like a it's kind of like a fuck around and find out kind of situation. Like let yourself be out there. Let yourself go through things because that's life. You have to live and learn. But at the same time, it's like I low-key have that guard up, so I know it's not gonna happen. But if I don't let it happen, then I'll never know what happens, you know? So yeah. I'm a little messy when it comes to that, but it's okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm messy too. Just
Yeah.
because, like, I mean, and this is something I've learned in therapy. Um, because like, yeah, for me, for the longest time, like, I just had an unchecked anxious attachment like style, and so it was always like, like I was unconsciously seeking validation from like anybody who would give it to me, and like as soon as that person gives me validation, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is it. And so
Yes.
it's like,
That is so real.
yeah,
Oh my God.
so it's like, ooh, it's like something you definitely have to like. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, it's set. Like that's just how I mean, like I definitely can internalize that yeah, like that just because somebody gives me validation doesn't mean like that's the person for me, like I still have to look for someone who respects, and I mean for me it's important that shares my values like through and through.
Yeah.
And um like somebody who I know I can share a life with, like in general. So, it's not just, oh, like you like me, I like you. No, it's all good. Like I definitely have to internalize that idea. But at the same time, like for me, I mean, it's daddy issues. That's it. That's all it is. That's like why I have an anxious attachment style.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that I have to keep in mind every time there's like a new happening, new occasion.
Yeah. Hard on the daddy issues, please. I know I talk a lot about my dad, but this is just happening. Like like our relationship is way different than what it was 6 months ago. Like this is now just
Yeah.
happening. And yeah, mommy and daddy issues, heavy on the daddy issues. Like it's insane. Like any person shows me attention, I'm like, oh, got it. This is mine. Kept keeping it. Like it's mine. And when it goes away, it's like, oh, damn, that's crazy. Like that just happened. And it's, yeah, it's crazy because you don't realize it's happening until it happens, and you're like, girl, what is going on? But yeah,
Yeah.
she's a little wild to say the least. But yeah. So our last topic of today's episode is also how the way youth grow affects our triggers, such as anxiety and any type of PTSD experiences. I feel like for me, at least, there's certain situations that we each go through that aren't our favorite, which also cause certain responses and reactions to them. So when it happens as we're growing, it's like we have this constant reaction to it. And at least for me, when it comes to like confrontation, hate it. I hate confrontation mainly because growing up, whenever I had to like confront something or someone about something, like especially when it came to my dad always used his loud like voice, saying that he wasn't yelling or screaming, but he low key was. And he would say that he would use that voice to get our attention, but it's like, no, all you did was create trauma. And every time it came to like speaking to you or bringing stuff up, I had a lot of anxiety when it came to that, but I didn't know how to identify that because I thought it was just a normal reaction to the way he was speaking to us. And I feel like now, like anytime I have to confront someone or something, I don't want to because I like shut down and I'm like, no, like I can't because I genuinely cannot do it. And or like when someone raises their voice or like yells or especially when people like get mad or like and they speak super loudly, I like low-key start to like get a lot of, even if they're not like directly talking to me, I get a lot of anxiety. And like my reaction to that is like to cry low-key. Because like it's just like a thing that I went through a lot most of my time growing up. And yeah, that's just something that happens to me at least. Like if someone like yells at me, I'll start like screaming, crying, throwing up. Like it's not a fun experience. And it
Mm-hmm.
hasn't happened recently because there's no need for it, but like especially in times where like I'm under a lot of pressure and I start to overthink and I start to worry, I like start to cry. And I hate it because then it makes me feel like, girl, like why are you crying? Like it's not that serious. But it is that serious. It is that deep. Like, yeah, that's just me. I don't know. Went a little deep there, but yeah.
No, I completely resonate with that. Like I can't handle conflict at all.
Mm,
Like
I hate
I no. And it's also yeah, but for me it's my mom because I mean my dad wasn't in the house. So my mom was the one who was always like raising her voice at us. And even like like I vividly remember even crying when it wasn't even directed at me. Like just like my mom yelling at one of my other siblings or like both of them together and I still bawled my eyes out because I just couldn't handle it. Like I still haven't processed that, to be honest. Like I still haven't processed why I don't really like conflict in general, um, or why I can't handle it. Because to me, yeah, like you said, it was like a normal reaction to my surroundings, to what was going on. So like, yeah, like I still can't process like why I can't handle conflict now. Um, but yeah, like anytime like they don't even have to say anything. It's just like when I perceive that somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, or something like, yeah, something I did or something I said, or something about me in general, like I overthink it, and like it just like creates like this deep pressure in my chest, and I'm just like, oh shit, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And like if this is a really close and important person to me, like I start crying.
Yeah.
Like I just can't. So like yeah, and like when anybody yells at me like for any reason, like if anybody, like if I'm near somebody getting yelled at, it makes me super uncomfortable. But if anybody starts yelling at me, it's like I will literally start crying right here, right now. Like I don't care.
Yes, that
Like
is
I just
so beautiful. Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's crazy. And the fact that majority of the times, like our parents don't have no idea that that happens to us. And then, yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, like my dad doesn't know that like when he would like yell at us, like I would go into my room and I start crying, like like a little like mental breakdowns by myself. Like a lot of, like yeah, a lot of times parents don't know what's going on with the youth,
yeah.
and then when you tell them, it's like, oh, well, you should have told me. Well, it's like, how am I supposed to tell you when like
Yeah, no.
I just can't, you know?
Yeah. No, like that's on you as a parent. Like that is on you as a parent. Like it just like your child owes you nothing. You brought them into this world. You should know what's going on with your child. But like,
Yeah. That's why as like if I ever become a parent, I want to make sure that my kids have that like safe space with me so that they
exactly.
know that I will always be there for them and I won't judge them and I won't like I just want them to feel safe having me
Yeah.
as their mom, you know? Like I
Yeah, yeah.
ooh, if I become a mom, I'm gonna be a badass mom. It's gonna be great. Like my kid, I wanna be to a certain extent, I wanna be my kid's best friend. Because I know that you should be friends with your kids, yes, but to a certain level. But I always want to be there for my kids, especially. Like I definitely don't want them to grow up the way like I did. And I want them to be happy when they're growing up, you know? Like I don't want them to be
Yeah.
worrying about whether or not I'm gonna get mad because I don't know, they left the milk out. Like no. Like I just you left the milk out. That's cool. Like put it away. If you left it out too long, just dump it out. We can go get a new one. Like, you know? Like
Yep.
I don't I want to be the most unproblematic parent ever. You know? Like I don't know. I will
And
definitely
even if you're not, like the one problem I have is that like, my gosh, we're humans. Like, of course
yes,
we're gonna get something wrong. But like just hold yourself accountable. Like that's all I need. That's all I'm asking for. Like I don't care that you didn't know any better, because like at some point yeah, like we're all still growing, we're all still learning. We don't know everything that's going on in the world. We don't know everything that's going on with ourselves.
yes,
Like we're gonna mess it up sometimes, and that's okay. But like apologize. Like that's literally all you have left to do. Like I'm apologize when I mess up, but like I also need that from you. Like that's all I have to say about that.
yeah.
Cause I've never heard one apology. ever, like when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to make my kids be able to like I want to create that safe environment for them to be able to be like, "Hey, ma, that's not really okay, but like this is how we feel. So like we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like don't do that anymore. But say less." Like I want to be able to have like that comfortable communication space between me and my kids. Because growing up, I never really felt comfortable talking about the way I felt with my parents. And I definitely want that for the future gens. So, the future mini me's. Yes. So, yeah. Well, okay. That wraps up our part two to this little series that we have going on. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We love y'all and appreciate y'all so, so much. Thank you for coming to our little rambles. And yeah,
Yeah.
yes, y'all know where to find us. Y'all know how to contact us if y'all have any questions or comments, or y'all just want to take this conversation to another level. Also, let us know. And yeah, so thank y'all for listening, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.